Prior to lining the truck up with the loader to fill with sodium acetate, you should stow the tarp on the other side of the vehicle and open the body up. You need to unclip the pin, affixing the tarp arm. Reclip the pin, extend the tarp arm, and slide the collar over the joint. Roll the tarp up and over the truck, keeping the assembly and the roll of the tarp straight on the top. Roll all the way to the other side against the stops, and tighten the tarp arm so that the handle is in line with the arm. Slide the collar up. And stow it in the bracket provided on the other side and affix the pin. Only load and line the truck up with the loader on the driver's side. The loader should align his bucket even with this load here side, and be sure to not load over the rear end tank. This tank has a roof on it, and the salt will get stuck up there. If the loader were to load onto passenger side, he should see the do not load other side. He'll damage the tarp. So be sure to only load the vehicle with the sodium acetate from the driver's side of the vehicle. Before deploying the tarp, the operator needs to inspect that the top of the body is clear from blocks and chunks of salt from the pile. You could use the ladder to climb up and inspect the top of the body, but the operator should not remove the salt while standing on the body. Stanchion or stairs with a secure area on top should be used, along with a broom or any other tools that it takes to remove the salt. The operator should inspect that there are no chunks of block salt on top of the grating of the body. That will make it harder and inhibit the ability for the tarp to deploy. When rolling the tarp out, you should pull this pin out, extend the tarp arm, secure the collar, and roll the tarp across the body. With salt on top, it will not roll over the top of the body easily, and it may become loose and fly off during operation. If there's anything, or you're unable to clear the top from the ice, you should not use the tarp. To affix the tarp on the other side, roll the tarp up, release the collar, and repin it on the opposite side. You can see that the tarp is tight under the lip on the side of the truck. Prior to filling the truck up with liquid, you should have your PPE on, including rubber gloves and eye protection. With the PTO on, all hydraulic fittings at the hydraulic motors for the body should be inspected. Make sure that there's no hydraulic fluid leaking out of the threads or from the tops here. And you'll see more hydraulic fittings down here at the spinner motor as well. All these to be inspected with the PTO on. At the rear of the vehicle, you have a backup camera and a look-down camera. Both these cameras need to be assured that they're free of snow and ice and that the lenses are clear. You could clean the lens with a rag, and those will be ready for service. Before filling the body with liquid, you need to ensure that the valves are in the correct position, starting with this valve. To fill the liquid, it needs to be in the down position. Access the valve here and make sure that it's fully down towards the back. Then ensure that at the fill location that the valve is also closed. Then you could take off the cap and insert the fill hose, affixing it with these two lever arms. Moving over to the driver's side of the truck, this valve needs to be turned into the fill position. If you are not tall enough to reach it, do not step on the rear of the vehicle. Get a ladder to gain access to this valve and then turn it to the full clockwise position. Before activating the pump, double check that the three-way valve on the driver's side is in the correct position. And activate the pump with this switch. If the truck is being filled while facing downhill, you'll need to inspect the sight glass to the front, as the front of the tanks will fill up sooner than the rear of the tanks. You also need to be aware that there's no solution spilling out of the vents on either side, which would indicate that the truck is full. When you disconnect the hose, bring this valve to the down closed position, and then these lever arms can be released and the hose removed. After removing the hose, reinsert the plug and tighten the lever arms. Return this valve to the open normal operating position by pushing it up. Then return the three-way valve to the run position by rotating it counterclockwise to this position. Prior to operation, you'll need to clean the liquid strainer daily. Before doing that, you need to have your PPE on, including rubber gloves and eye protection. Before servicing the strainer, you want to turn this service valve into the closed strainer service self-pump fill position. The valve should be pointed down. You could access the valve under here, and it should be pulled towards the back, all the way to the back of the vehicle. To clean the strainer, you'll need to untighten this ring. Liquid will come out of this when you start to remove this ring and loosen up the seal. There's a O-ring seal. Pull the strainer out straight, and to service it, you should just shake out any debris and try and rattle off as much as possible. To reinsert the strainer, you'll want to take the strainer and push it up into the housing. It's a little bit of an interference fit, it'll stay in there. Then the cap has an O-ring here. You want to quickly inspect the O-ring, make sure that there's no scratches or pinches in it, and then put the housing or the cap into the housing straight, making sure that it fully seats. You should inspect it around its circumference, making sure that the gap is tight before threading on this ring to secure it. You should tighten it all the way and then give it a little bit more to affix it and secure it fully. To prepare the rear of the truck for unloading the sodium acetate, you want to first from the cab shut the PTO off so that there's no hydraulic pressure going to any of the motors and drives back here. A secondary inspection should be performed to make sure that the spinner is stationary. Remove the cotter pins and pull the big pin out, both sides. The rear bumper is rather heavy. Get a good handhold, and you'll want to move this, pick up straight, and then you'll want to move this a good distance out of the way to be sure not to trip over it while operating around the back of the vehicle while you empty the salts. The operator will need to raise the spinner. To do this, the locking mechanism should be rotated several times, and then gas shocks will assist in the raising of the spinner, and the operator should retighten the spinner so that as you pull forward, it doesn't vibrate. To return the spinner to the operating position, the locking mechanism should be loosened 3 to 4 turns, and then you could bring, using the handle, the spinner down, fully down into the operating position, and then retighten the locking mechanism until the teeth come together. Then reaffix the bumper. You slide it into the brackets, aligning the hole as you drop it. The bumper can be aligned before you put the pins in. And affix it with the cotter pin. To attach the hose, release the lever arms on this cap and affix the hose to the solution tanks, retightening the lever arms. Turn the 3-way valve counterclockwise until it stops to the unload position. Once the hose is affixed, open the valve to the storage tanks. Before activating the pump, double check that the 3-way valve on the driver's side is in the correct position. And activate the pump with this switch. As the tanks drain, the float in the sight glasses will drop down to the bottom, and the pitch of the pump will change, indicating that the tanks are empty. You should shut the system off when that change in pitch occurs.